manual, project number 4, a dramatic talk. The purpose is to entertain the audience with a dramatic speech in 5 to 7 minutes. So please join me in welcoming advanced communicator Franz Kirchbinder with his speech. Be prepared.
Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and most welcome guests. The air was crisp. It was a July morning in upstate New York. Edward, Marty, and Steve were on an adventure. They were camping at Blue Jay Campsite on the shores of Tupper Lake. The smell of pine was stout in the air. Steve said, "Why don't we take our canoe down Tupper Lake 5 miles to the town of Tupper Lake and have lunch? But we have to be prepared for almost anything." Marty said, "Sure." Edward said, "You bet." They put together a checklist. Steve said, "Canoe, check. Sail, check. Motor, check." They grabbed life jackets, pads to sit on, a fishing pole, lures, a $500 camera. And Edward said, "We're forgetting something." Ah! They pulled out an antique metal cooler full of 12 frosty cold Blatz beers. Now, Blatz beer is named because that's the sound it makes as it courses through your system. Blatz. Excuse me. They were ready for their adventure. Steve had spent a lot of time sailing, so he set the course. First, we have to sail to the east side of the lake, and then we're going to sail to the west side of the lake and land in downtown Tupper Lake. They took the canoe with all their items and set it in the lake. It looked like the lowrider of the Northeast. But if you looked at the lake, it was like a pane of glass. If it would start to shimmer, it would look like a million stars. They started by turning on the motor. They started across the lake. Edward said, "Wait a minute. I think I see a bass." He grabbed the fishing pole and cast it into the water. Boom! A bass hit it. Edward said, "I think I have the record lunker of Tupper Lake," which was a 15-pound bass. As he started to bring it in, he realized it was about a foot long. No lunker this time, but he thought, hey, it may be a good snack for dinner. The clear, calm lake, the waves started to ruffle a little bit. The clear sky, all of a sudden, started getting a little darker. Clouds started to roll in. It started to sprinkle. It started to rain. Steve said, "We better get across the lake as fast as possible." As they got to the middle of the lake, they realized that the waves started to come up on their canoe. Steve said, "Turn to the left." Well, wait a minute, turn to the right. Edward said, "Hey, my butt's kind of wet." Marty said, "We're taking on water. Does anybody have anything to bail with?" Steve said, I have this empty beer can. They started to bail. They tried to bail.
Needs a bucket.
1, 2, 3 waves over the top of the canoe. The canoe slid out from under our 3 adventurers. Bobbing in the water were the pads, the life jackets, the fishing pole, the $500 camera. What are we going to do? They thought, could this be our watery grave? They looked out into the distance, and there was a swirling in the water. Was it a water spout? A tornado? Could it have been the sea monster, Tupper Lake? No, no, no. It was something even more sinister than that. It was a troop of Boy Scouts. 4 of them in their canoes. As everything was bobbing in the water, including Edward, Steve, and Marty, they thought, do we just drown ourselves now? Or do we let them save us? The Boy Scouts paddled up. Need some help, guys? Duh, said Marty. The Boy Scouts surrounded the canoe, collected the life jackets, pads, beer. The only thing that wasn't going to make it was the cooler. Steve, Marty, and Edward were pulled to shore by the Boy Scouts, and everything was in perfect condition. But they remembered maybe next time we should be prepared.